What makes sunsets beautiful? And when are sunsets the most beautiful? Let's dive deeper. First of all, we have to look at the sun and what light it emits. Because on Earth, the sun might look yellow, but in space, there's a totally different picture. In total, the sun emits red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, green, and violet light waves. Together, they all combine to white. That's why the sun looks white in space. Now, when the light comes through the atmosphere, it goes through a process called Rayleigh Scattering. The different light waves bounce more or less depending on their wavelength. You can think of it like this. Light with shorter wavelengths has to travel a longer path because it is more wavy, and that's why it's more likely to hit something and be scattered. So the rule goes, the shorter the wavelength, the more scattering. That's why especially blue and violet light bounce from their original path, making the sun look a bit yellow from the Earth, while making the sky look blue in return. Now, when it comes to a sunset, the light still has to go through the same atmosphere. The only difference is that now it's at a different angle, not at like a 90% angle, so it doesn't come from the top completely, but it comes now from the side, which makes the path of the light much longer, and that means in return more scattering. Even the longer light waves will now be partly scattered, making the sun seem red to us because red has the longest wavelength of the light that we can see and is scattered the least. All the colors other than red now paint the sky in a vibrant orange, yellow, sometimes even green color. The Rayleigh scattering is also the reason why after sunset we still have about an hour or so with sufficient light, because even though we can't see the sun anymore, some of its light still bounces in our part of the atmosphere and from there into our eyes. By the way, this part of the sunset is called the afterglow. The afterglow is also the best time for the red cloud phenomenon. Now, clouds are usually white. Because of their high density, all light waves bounce to a certain degree, making the clouds, like the sun, white to our eye. But when the sun is beneath the clouds, the sun can now hit the clouds with the mostly red wavelengths that are still coming through, making the clouds seem red to our eyes, even though it's just a reflection of the sun. This mostly happens in the early part of twilight, a phase where the sun is under our horizon, but there's still enough light coming to us for the sky to be fairly bright. Quick side note, it's not only the vibrant colors that make the sunset so beautiful for us, it's also the intensity of the light. I couldn't find a specific study on it, but it is generally said that the softer shadows the sun makes at sunset also bring us in a much calmer mood. Now to the next point, where do we best watch sunset? Now here's where opinions start playing a role. The two most often used places are probably mountains and the ocean. Both of them have specific up and downsides though. See, on a mountain you have the landscape where you can not only see the softer shadows I talked about earlier, but also can see the vibrant colors reflecting off of the land. But that's pretty much it for the mountains. At the ocean, you have the highest chance of seeing the red cloud phenomenon while still being able to see the sun. Now, as I said, the clouds really begin shining red when the sun is beneath them. So when you are at a Great Plain, you will be able to see the red cloud phenomenon while still being able to see the sun. Hence, making the ocean or a Great Plain area in general a very good place to view the sunset, because you get the chance to have beautiful clouds while still being able to see the sun in the background. Now, this can also happen on the mountain, because when you're on a mountain, your horizon gets shifted back a little, but when you are on the mountain, the sun oftentimes gets blocked by other mountains in the way before you get to the red cloud phenomenon. Coming back to the ocean though, you obviously also have the light reflecting off of the ocean, making it for a lot of people the superior choice. What it often lacks though is the beautiful landscape with the softer shadows. Now let's get to a more important point though. What about the weather? When is the best weather for a sunset? Now here I have to make clear that most people think the more vibrant a sunset is, the more beautiful it is too. So that's what I'm going to go with now. For the best view, you want there to be a fairly low humidity, otherwise aerosols with water vapor on them can literally block the great view. This is also why winter sunsets tend to be more beautiful. As the colder it gets, the air usually gets a little bit drier as well. Plus, winter sunsets last longer because the sun comes in on a lower angle and not the celestial equator like on equinox in the summer. Also, because of the high temperature differences in winter, the clouds can look more crisp than in the summer, for example. Otherwise, you should try to have about 30 to 70% cloud coverage and no wind nor fog for fairly obvious reasons. Now, the last and probably most important point: when should you watch a sunset? We already heard that colder seasons are most often the way to go, but when it comes to the time of the day, we mostly have to rely on opinions. The certain conditions can change really fast and are generally just hard to measure. There are apps out there who try to do it, but even those oftentimes fail. So really, it's hard to decide on a specific time to watch the sunset. That's why most people suggest come early and stay late. Now, if you want to make photos, the golden hour might be something for you, which is 1 hour before sunset or the hour after sunrise. Then again, as you heard, best for seeing red clouds is during the sunset or a little after until the end of still twilight, which in most places is 20 minutes to 1 hour after the sunset, depending on where you are in the world. The further away from the equator, the longer it usually gets, reaching up to 2 to 3 weeks at the poles. In conclusion though, go where you prefer. Try to catch a clear view with low humidity and maybe some cooler temperatures. The rest can vary very easily, so you're just gonna have to try a lot. That was it for this week's Let's Dive Deeper. I hope you had a great week and see you in the next weeks.